and welcome to the latest edition of our podcast. Joining me today is a colleague, good friend of mine, over from, or he's actually in Chicago, not over from Chicago, Mr. Steve Brooks. So, Steve, hi there, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm very well, David. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
And talk to us a little bit about Chicago. How's the cold and the snow and the ice now?
Well, let's think. Last week we were minus 56 with the wind chill, which will freeze your eyeballs. And yesterday we were 50 degrees, which is 106 degrees swing in temperature in like 4 or 5 days, which is just bizarre. And being British and living in the US, of course, we're obsessed with the weather, aren't we?
Absolutely.
So it's a good fun and games, though. But listen, as I think I put on Instagram and LinkedIn, you know, I was indoors, I was warm, I had a Wi-Fi connection. It was business as normal for me. So that's how you combat the cold.
Life is good, but 100 degrees swing in temperature, my goodness. Good stuff. Anyway, Steve, thank you for joining us on the call, and we're not going to take up too much of your time. For those people who don't know Steve, please check him out on LinkedIn. Steve's known as the pop-up expert. He's an international business coach. I've known Steve for a number of years, and you have truly international experience of retail in various sectors. And I've just got a few questions I'd like to run by you, and then I'm going to shut up and let you sort of take the stage. So based on your experience and knowledge, what in your experience is the number one thing, if there is a number one thing, that gets in the way of people achieving what they want or being as successful as they really want to be?
So in my experience working with people on, as you say, in all sorts of industries, from retail to fintech, from design and so on. The number one thing I come up against when I'm coaching people is actually self-doubt. They hit a block where the voice in the back of their head is, am I doing this right? You know, is this going to work? And 99 times out of 100, it's going to work. It's just inner belief. And for me, I think I see that a lot, certainly with startups, and maybe with people that are just about to take that next leap from, coming out of that startup phase and moving forward. Maybe they're opening a different location, or they're setting up a distribution network in another country, and so on. So that self belief or self doubt, I think, for me. But also the other one that comes up often, I think, is maybe confidence in their own team, and have they built the right team about them to take the next leap? So I think that gets in the way of success for quite a few businesses.
So looking at and I've seen some of the testimonials that you've got from some of your clients as well. If they start out their journey with this sort of lack of belief or whatever it is, how do you help them overcome it? Because it does, I sort of agree with you. I see it on a number of levels, if you like. How do you help them overcome that? How do you get them to move forwards and get through that?
I think it's about inspiring them, back into their business. Sometimes, back into what they want to achieve, and helping them define their goals and focus on what's important for them to move forward. So kind of almost combat that self-doubt and turning it round into real strong self-belief, and having a plan, putting together a very focused and structured approach and structured process to what they want to achieve, so that they combat those kind of demons in their head.
So at least that's what the dream overcomes the demons to a certain extent.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
And I guess you've seen this as well, and it's a similar sort of thing where sometimes, and I think maybe it's a pattern of high achieving people where they almost think too much. And I've seen a couple of cases where very capable, highly intelligent, bright people will sit back and say, and I remember one of my colleagues was a lawyer some years ago, and she said, I hope I don't get found out. And it was like this sort of imposter syndrome almost, that she was brilliant, absolutely great lawyer, lovely person, bright, intelligent, all that sort of thing. But in the back of her mind, she was questioning her own abilities. Is that something that you've seen crop up for people as well?
I've seen that, and also that classic entrepreneurial boredom threshold,
Yes.
where you and listen, I'll be very frank. I've been there with this myself before I got into coaching. That you focus, you get everything running smoothly. It runs like a well-oiled machine. It's profitable. There's a great team, and then you find yourself being a bit obsolete.
Yes.
And so you break it, you tinker with it,
to make yourself relevant again.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can charge in on the white horse and save the day and put things back together again. And I see that a lot in brilliant entrepreneurs. And I have, as you know, I have a problem with the word entrepreneur anyway, because
Sure.
I think it's overused.
Yes.
In today's age. But that classic, boredom thing. I think we're seeing it with people like Elon Musk right now.
Possibly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
And so you almost want to make yourself relevant again.
Yeah.
And so I think part of what I'm trying to do with entrepreneurs is make sure that they combat that. I need to break it so I can fix it again and make it better, and get them more to focus on, well, what's the next big idea then? Because this is running and this supports, the next dream. So how do we work on that so that you kind of deflect that doubt again, that self-belief about, well, I need to make myself relevant.
And I guess I see this again, we hear this, people call themselves serial entrepreneurs, which may be a good thing or not, but perhaps they're serial entrepreneurs because, as you said, they build a business, it gets to a point of scalability, and they get sort of, altitude sickness, and they sort of crush that and do another one, so they can keep that pattern of growing and fighting and that they're comfortable with, rather than actually achieve full scalability and growth.
No, absolutely. Listen, go back to Michael Gerber, right? eBooks. What's the reason for having a business?
Yeah.
It's to sell it. It's to build it and sell it and move on to the next thing.
Yes.
And I think that lots of people that call themselves serial entrepreneurs just get scared about, well, what am I going to do next? And listen, if you've built a business and you've achieved and this is something that will carry on, then you must have the self-confidence to be able to do it again, rather than break the existing process in order to refix it and and move forward. Yeah.
And again, in your experience, the people that you work with, can anybody break through this? My guess is this is a pattern for a lot of people. For you, I've been there myself in my business career and entrepreneurial path, that type of thing. But anybody, we all have these sort of doubts at some level in our sort of background. Can anybody with help and support break through it in your experience?
Yeah, I think everybody can.
Yeah.
Of course, it comes down to your own personal determination. And none of us have the ability to change anybody else on the planet, but we can inspire people to make those changes themselves. And I see very much of what you and I do, Dave, when we're coaching people, is being that conduit to help them become inspired again and to want to effect change and to make change, maybe in their business, maybe in their team, maybe in their personal life, but to help them on that journey. We can't do it for them,
Sure.
And I'm sure you've said this to clients, having a coach is not having somebody that does the job for you.
No,
that's not what we're here for. But we'll give you the support, we'll give you the tools, we'll hold you accountable, and work with you on the ideas. But at the end of the day, you have to do the job. We're there to support.
I think this struck me. This was going back probably a few weeks, a couple of months ago now, when I was chatting to one of my clients, and I didn't realize this, but when we first started around about 12 months ago, I made almost a passing comment to him. It's just in conversation, and there's lots of stuff going on in the business. Doesn't matter who he was, whatever, that sort of thing. Lots of stuff going on. I looked at it and I went through it with him, and at the end of the conversation we were having, I just said to him, you're doing the right things. You're going to be okay. All will be fine. And sort of 8 months, 9 months later, when everything turned out to be okay, he said, well, the fact that I said he was going to be okay for him was a big vote of confidence. And I didn't, it wasn't the intention I said it for. It was just a sort of throwaway comment almost. But I think, as you say, if we enable them to believe in what they can do, what they're able to, they can do much more than they think before they were, had the conversation with us, perhaps.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And I think part of what our job as well is almost validating some, those thoughts within people as well. That you know this as running your own business the same as I do, and lots of people listening today. It is very lonely.
Yes.
Being at the head of your organisation.
Yes.
As I talked about earlier on this year. Who do you turn to when your business gets ill? If you're ill as a person, you go to a doctor, and if your boiler breaks down, you call in a plumber. But when your business gets sick or looks like it's it's ill, who do you turn to? And this is where I think we can really help. If you've got a strong team and it's a big corporate, obviously you're going to go to your board and your other C-suite executives, but those kind of early startups, those people going through the growing pains, and even the big organizations, and I've worked with some lovely CEOs of big organizations, that you're trying to be there to support and take them through that self-belief process, that development of the business process as well.
Well, I think as a business grows, the individual has to grow just a little bit faster, personal development and growth and knowledge. And so this belief, it comes in, there's different levels of it, I guess, as they progress as well. And I know, you say, it's a lonely place to be, and we share the struggles with the clients as well. But also, as you know, when they win, we celebrate the wins with them as well. So it is a joyous journey sometimes.
Yeah, no, more times than it isn't, thankfully. But you're right, and that's part of, that's part of the resource that we are in the business for them. That confidant when you need it, that person that you can vent to. I mean, I've had people that have probably been more open with me while we've been coaching than they've probably been with their spouses.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yes, no, you're right.
And so, we have a very precious role to play, a very almost privileged role.
Absolutely. No, I think it is
in what we do.
Yes.
And so, listen, I'm thankful every day for what I do.
Absolutely. And your clients are as well, I'm sure. I've seen what they say about you. Okay. So we have the print, we've got the mindset, we're breaking through some barriers, a bit of the confidence coming through now. And what most people want in their business really is they want to feel good about it. But at some point they want to make more money, more profit, more cash. So if this is a very broad question, but if somebody says to you, I want to make more profit in my business, where would you look first? What sort of things would you advise or guide, or what journey would you take them on? How do you get more profit out of the business in your experience?
Listen, first off, I think you've got to understand what your margins are anyway, and know if you are making profit in the way that you hope you are. I know there's a very interesting story about Richard Branson. I think it's in one of his books about understanding net profit and gross profit, which he didn't, and his reaction when he was asked, well, how did you feel? It was like, I realized I really wasn't as rich as I thought I was. But the looking at profitability, I would say, understand where you can cross-sell and upsell to your existing customer base. I always think that's, a very underrated path that people can take.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you're from a sales background, and you're talking to a client, how many times have you heard that client say, "Oh, I didn't know you did that"? And so I think, listening and understanding and knowing what your client is, and being able to, as I say, cross-sell and upsell on those, and maybe looking at what the market can sustain in terms of what you're doing. I've had a very interesting retail client that I've been working with, and we've realized that actually their pricing is way off. They're I don't like using the word cheap, but they're very, very keenly priced.
Sure.
And the market will take will take some extra costs. So maybe looking at those costs, looking at ways that you can do things smarter, and looking at more working, I think, with partnerships with your suppliers, rather than when I go, I go and buy my widgets from this guy.
Yeah.
I've always bought them. Maybe shopping around sometimes, seeing if you can get better deals. Better deals, of course, don't always mean better service.
Sure.
So be wary of that. The KFC experience 18 months ago in the UK, I think, is a classic example.
Absolutely, yes, exactly right.
But my first port of call would always be, how can you be cross-selling and upselling?
Yes.
And looking at, who's buying from you, how are they buying, what are the volumes, how can you improve that process? Yeah. How can you work closer with those customers that you can effectively, become indispensable? Yeah. And none of us are, but you understand the premise.
Yeah.
And work that way. I mean, there's a whole other, probably 100 different ways of looking at it, but they'd be my kind.
It's a good way. It's a good start point. I think, and when you talk about pricing, I've seen a number of times in my career and in my own businesses as well, from the transport logistics background, is that being too cheap that conveys a message as well. And if we're too low, people don't get it. They don't believe the value that we can offer. And actually, when this is back in the old days of transport, we were going in real cheap to try and compete with the other people. Once we put in a premium product that had all the bells and whistles to go with it, we found people wanted that, and they said to us, "Well, we never thought you could do it for that price before, but now you're doing this, it sort of makes more sense." They had confidence in the price, I suppose. And that's because I think as business owners, entrepreneurs, I think price is probably in our mind or the mind of the business owner rather than the client, if we're not careful. And we always assume, if we're not careful, that our clients buy on price. And actually, if we get it right, then they normally don't.
No, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And who you're selling to as well. Do you want to invest lots and lots of time in trying to sell, $100,000 packages to 100 people, or do you want to concentrate on selling, $10,000 packages to 10 people? Yeah. And adding value. And I'm a huge believer in adding value up front. Mm-hmm. And I know you do this. That when we meet people for the very first time, we're very free with advice and very free with suggestions and ideas about what could happen in the future. And I think adding value right at the start is so important, particularly in today's selling environment.
Well, I think, as you say, with the social media world, and hence there are literally 35,000 people listening to this podcast as we speak, I'm sure. But we're putting ideas and thoughts out there, and what I've found is you put ideas and thoughts and value, as you say, you put it out into the ether, and it does come back, from people who ask further questions or connect or whatever. Maybe they buy a book, come to a workshop, whatever it is, but you put it out, then it does come back again. So, but I think people focus on sales, which obviously they want to work on sales, but actually they almost forget that they're in the business of profits and cash as well. So it's important, as you say, to look at pricing without just increasing the rates and the costs that go with it. So okay, from a sales point of view, then we're all, especially in the smaller companies, we all tend to be in sales. We have our own sales department. Critical reasons, in your experience, why people perhaps don't sell as much as they could or should sell. Any particular sort of patterns there?
So I think that the first thing around that is that selling has changed probably more in the last 15, 20 years than it ever has. That if anybody was taught ABC, and that's always be closing, if you don't know what that means.
We must have seen the video clip from Glenn Ross by now.
Yes, it must have done, right? It's far more about building relationships. It's far more about building trust and being authentic. Yeah. It's far, as we said earlier, about adding value. But the number one reason in my experience why people aren't selling as much as they could is because they never actually get around to asking for the sale.
That's a great point. Yes.
They never get around to actually saying, "So, Mr. Client, do you want to place an order? So Dave, do you want to go ahead?"
Yeah.
And we're very much assumptive around that, and we can have death by PowerPoint or keynote, and it can be brilliant, and it can answer all of the questions, but we never actually say to somebody, how many widgets would you like to order, right?
And why is that, do you think? You're absolutely right. I've recognized it myself back in the old days. I'd have long, drawn-out conversations with people, and you see it even now where you speak to one of the sales team, they'll be out there. How did the meeting go? It was great. They love us. They got the brochure. They're going to call us when they need us. And it's just like nothing happened on the day at all. Why is it? Is it a fear or something, or just a technique we're not using?
No, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's training. Of the sales team. I think it is fear as well. And I think when we're so used to now communicating by email, sending people messages through LinkedIn and so on, that we don't form that bond where you actually feel comfortable saying, Mr. Prospect, how many widgets do you want to order?
Yes.
And so here's the other side of that, in my experience, is that the client's actually waiting for you to ask.
That's right. Please allow me to buy something from you.
yeah, right. It was brilliant. I love the presentation. I think it's a great product, but you never asked me if I wanted to go ahead.
Am I allowed to buy it?
So, and believe me, and like you say, 35,000 people, it's just gone up. It's probably 37.5.
Oh, I can see it on the scale.
This is just such good content. If you're in sales, right, try it, right? Just try it once, and you will be surprised. I guarantee you will be surprised that the client will say, if you've done the job properly. Now, of course, going back to sales training and understanding your FABs and your USPs and all of those sorts of things, right? In my experience and what I like to teach people, if they're in a very hard-driven sales environment, is listen, a no is just a request for more information.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You didn't tell them everything that they needed to do to make an informed decision. Now, if it's a no, guys, but the price is too high, that's a different thing, right? But we've all experienced things like that. But I think your prospect is waiting for you to ask. You're stupid if you don't, and if you're successful right now and you're not asking for the sale, just think how more successful you're going to be.
Absolutely.
By asking for the sale, right? So I mean that's my
That's a great point. I guess
that's my soapbox on it.
I think the acid test of anybody in sales is our conversion rate from every, whether it's an inquiry or a click or a call, whatever it is. What percentage are we converting? I mean, I've spoke to, and I recognise it myself when I started out in sales, I was selling plastic bags and packaging to the retail industry. And my director said to me, he said, your pipeline's great. Lots of prospects in the pipeline, and I wasn't closing. And he suggested it was that I had this fear of rejection, of asking for the sale and being told no. And that I've seen that pops up a lot. I've seen that a lot. And I'm not convinced that is what it was. At least it wasn't for me. I was okay with rejection, but what I didn't want to have was a weak pipeline. And for me, if they never said no, they were always in the pipeline. There was always a potential, always a prospect. Yeah. And that was strong. It was like a comfort blanket. If I asked for the sale and got it, that was great. But even if I got the sale, they didn't become a prospect, if that makes sense. I went off the prospect list. If they said no, they went off it. If they said nothing, they stayed on it. And having that strength in my mind, and I wonder if some people prefer a good, strong pipeline rather than a good, strong either sales or low conversion rate. We're complex creatures, but that was one of the things that I recognized for myself.
Good point.
Closing, asking for the sale, and I was also, you see this overcoming objections. Well, don't attract them in the first place, as you say. Do a good job in the first place. You won't attract the objections.
Yes, no, absolutely, and know your client. Take 5 minutes before you go into a meeting. Just to calm yourself and put yourself in a good place of success mentally. That you're going to go in and you're going to do a great job, but also do the research. Know what your competitors are doing. Know what is the client needs, and sell the solution. What problem are you solving for these people, and know who they are, and build the relationship. Add the value up front.
And I guess then if we do that properly, then the price becomes was secondary in the conversation, because the value is there first, and it's difficult to compare and that sort of thing. So we're on sort of back on value, insight sales. But great point. Okay, so we've got people with the mindset now. We've gone focused on profit. They're now doing more sales, and we've taught them all that. And this is a question I get asked a lot, so I'm going to ask you anyway to see what you think. But well, why on earth would anybody need a coach? Why would they need somebody like you or me or another coach to pop up and be with them on the journey? What are the real benefits? So why would anybody hire you?
The number one reason people hire me is about accountability. Mm-hmm. Is having somebody that's not not linked and intrinsically into the business, that will listen openly and objectively to what's going on, what the challenges are, what the successes are, and offer sound advice and help. Mm-hmm. And hold somebody accountable for what they're going to do. So for me, I think that's the number one reason. I think having somebody outside your business that will see the wood for the trees can be a very, very powerful tool in a business, and being able to. I mean, a lot of the coaching I do, I see more as mentoring. I think coaching again has become one of those overworked words. I saw a post a few months back on Instagram about how people can teach you to be a coach in 10 weeks. Right?
They're going to say 10 minutes, but okay, 10 weeks.
I've been in business. I've been in business for 35 years. Yes, I did start when I was 6. But and I'm still learning.
Yes.
Right. And everybody is different. Everybody has nuances about them. Whilst the principles apply with many businesses, everybody is very unique because that's what we are as individuals and human beings. We're unique.
Absolutely.
And I think people need a coach to be able to just chuck ideas out there, and see what sticks, and also be that place where somebody can vent.
Yes.
And I find that a lot. That if anything, I'm the sponge that's soaking up almost the frustration sometimes.
Sure.
And I think that's immensely helpful, because what you then do is you get to wring it out and reposition the mindset of the client and help them, maybe attack something from a far more tactical point of view than an emotional point of view.
Yes.
So I see that as being very, very key, but also certainly with my business experience and the fields that I'm worked in. Someone described me once as a bit of a guerrilla marketing expert. So
good.
I again, when it comes to things like that, the weird and the wacky, and just somebody again that isn't looking from the outside in, might come up with some other ideas, or will show from experiences of working with other businesses. Listen, I've seen this journey before, and this is where you turn off, or this is where you carry on.
Yeah.
So it's hand holding. It's an arm around the shoulder. It's a shoulder to cry on. It's a face to celebrate with. I remember you telling me this years ago, but somebody saying to you, "Well, I can't afford a coach."
Yes.
Well, that's exactly why you need one.
Exactly.
Right? That's exactly because it's exactly why you need one, because you want to move forward. And I just love it, like you do.
Yeah, exactly. No,
it's so rewarding.
I think it is a privilege, as you say. I think all these little anecdotes. You say, why do you need a coach? This type of thing. I remember this some years ago. Again, now I had a phone call from a client, and he asked if he could see me at a weekend. Something big had happened in his business. There's but it doesn't matter what it was or who he was. Big had happened in his business. So we met at this I think it was a pub somewhere on the A5 when we were based in the UK, and walked in. He looked very sheepish. He just looked very sheepish. He sat down opposite to me, looking into his beer, and he explained what had happened. And after about 20 minutes of talking about it, and it was quite a challenging situation for whatever had happened. And he said, "What do you think?" And and I remember thinking at the time, I'm sure you've had this as well. This is a moment of truth, because what I said next would be, quite defining in his sort of future. And I remember thinking, I don't know what to say. What comes next? And all I said to him was, "Oh, well, that's okay. I thought it was going to be something serious. This is something that can be sorted out and we can move on from it." And he looked up, he went, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And because I said, I didn't think it was that serious. I mean, it was quite serious, but that sort of influence we have and making it okay for people to move on, move through, have permission to be more successful, this sort of thing. You say it is a big responsibility, and also, but single words and phrases and questions can make a big difference in people's lives and attitudes. And that, I think, is part of the gift that you bring to people as well.
Listen, I learned from one of the best people, right? Which is you. You know that. You're right. It can be a simple phrase. It can be, listen, that there is a way out of this. And again, it goes back to that very first thing about what gets in the way of our success. It's the voices in our heads.
Yes.
It's the it's like we say about sales team. If your sales team's keeping you awake at night, you need a new sales team.
That's right. Yes.
So, my mother used to say, a problem shared is a problem halved. And actually, I never really understood it until and as business owners and entrepreneurs and whatever, CEOs, I guess we're maybe not that good at confronting our problems with other people. We'll shoulder it, we'll shoulder the blame, or we'll shoulder the pain, and we'll try and work out the solution, rightly or wrongly. And that's part of what we that's what we bring to the table as well. That listen, you're not the only one that's been here.
Absolutely,
and you won't be the last. But here's the way out. It's the story I love telling is about the guy that's stuck down a hole.
Go on.
And he's somebody walks past and he's like shouting up, hello, can you help me out? And they go, oh no, and they carry on walking, and several people walk past and he calls, and nobody helps, and eventually a guy stops and the guy's like, can you help me out of this hole? And the guy goes, sure, and jumps in the hole.
Go on.
And he said, what are you doing? He said, listen, I've been in a hole like this. I know the way out. and it's a lovely story, but it is that whole,
exactly
that you're not alone. Right?
Yes.
The 42,000 people that are now listening, let me tell you,
exactly. He's climbing all the time.
You're not alone, right? You are seriously not alone in business.
Absolutely.
And that's that's part of what we have a responsibility to do as well.
Absolutely. And so, okay, so we've got they've hired you as the coach, they've got the profits, the sales, all that sort of thing. What, again, in your experience, the inspiring people, not that we have to inspire people, or you have to inspire them, but what do you find is that inspires people? Is it the money? Is it success? Is it being able to sleep at night? What sort of things, is there a common theme there for what does get people really juiced up and excited about the business?
Listen, I think you can find inspiration anywhere, right? I mean, we have the most powerful tool in the world that's free to us, the internet, and there are people, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people every day posting, inspirational messages on Instagram and Facebook and all of those sorts of things, which is all well and good, and I think they should be well received. But have a look around, have a look at those people that are close to you for inspiration. And I think it's okay for us to look at the Elon Musk and the Steve Jobs and the Gary Vaynerchuk's and all of those sorts of people, but I think real inspiration comes from those people that are around you and close to you. Inspiration comes from your family. It comes from wanting to do the best for your team. Inspiration for me, and you know, I've struggled sometimes, Dave, with that whole internal thing myself. But eventually, you know, you dig deep and you find the inspiration within you as well.
Yeah.
Reading, reading inspirational books, I love watching TED Talks.
Yes.
As a way of just, you know, clicking my mechanism back into Swiss time.
Yes.
So it runs efficiently. Working with people like you, for me, is inspirational. And I've told you that many times, but it really is. So find somebody that you can genuinely call your friend, that will give you that hard truth. And again, as coaches, I think that's a responsibility we have.
Yes.
So it's all around it, isn't it? You can get responsibility, inspiration from you know, religion. If that's your thing, you could. Yeah. It's everywhere. You know, just getting out in the sunshine some days and getting a little bit of vitamin D. You know, I think my best. I have to share this with you. I'm fortunate enough to live like 5 minutes walk from Lake Michigan, right?
Yeah.
And I actually do my best thinking when I'm walking along Lake Michigan. Yes. It doesn't matter what the weather is.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, getting inspiration from clearing your own head, or you know, the whole theories of healthy body, healthy mind.
Yeah.
But also have a look at those people around, you know, the people that work with you or for you or and are in your team. You can get inspiration from them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think for me, it's I don't think there's one single source. I think it's, you know, it's like a tree in full bloom. There are so many leaves that you can appreciate. That you can find it anywhere.
But it is everywhere, isn't it? I remember you mentioned TED.com, the speech site, fabulous. And everybody who's listening, if you haven't come across it, TED.com, recommend it. Go and check out some of the talks. Yep. They're amazing. And I remember this is not that long ago. I was speaking with a client, and we were talking about things to look at, a bit of research, and looking at some ideas and inspiration. And actually, I said to him almost in passing, "Well, check out TED, the video, the TED, and have a look at that over the weekend." Anyway, he dropped me an email. He spoke to me on the Monday. He said, "Well, it was okay, sir. I didn't really get it though." So what didn't you find of interest? Because he'd looked at TED. Is it the movie with Mark Wahlberg?
Yes.
He watched that, not TED.com. Anyway, so that didn't go down too well. He didn't get inspiration from the teddy bear movie. But anyway, I put him on the right track after that. So it's TED.com, not TED the movie we're referring to. So, anyway, it was all good fun. So, Steve, look, it's been a joy, as always, speaking with you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for giving all your thoughts and ideas. If anybody else listening, as they should do, wants to connect or get in touch with you, Steve, what's the easiest way of getting in touch with Steve Brooks?
Yeah, listen, drop me an email at steve@thepopupexpert.com. You'll find me on LinkedIn. If you're linked with Dave, I'm there, but you'll find me Stephen A. Brooks on LinkedIn. If you're in the US and you want to speak to me directly, 773-592-9142. If you're in the UK, you can leave a message in my UK office, which is 01279312187. But you know, reach out. I'm here.
You're pretty easy to find.
Yeah, hope so.
Excellent. Yeah, exactly. And again, for the 57,000 people now listening,
wow.
You know, I do recommend give Steve a shout, get in touch, have a conversation. If you're in Chicago, go and share a Starbucks, have a meeting, have a conversation. It's well worth your time. He's a lovely guy, knows what he's doing, and I'm privileged to count him as a friend and colleague. So
that's incredibly kind of you to say, but. As I said earlier, I was taught by one of the best.
Oh, it's like a mutual appreciation society. We'll have a group hug in a second.
We'll have a group hug. Yeah, virtual hug. That's been great. Thank you for the opportunity.
Steve, my pleasure. Good speaking with you. Keep in touch. Everyone listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Look out for the podcast coming through. Give Steve a shout. Let us know what you think, and look forward to catching with you soon. But bye for now.
Bye-bye.